Welcome to Empower Her Radio, the podcast for healthcare moms who want to break free from limiting beliefs, build unshakable confidence, and step into the truest expression of themselves, both personally and professionally. I'm your host, Corey Wynn. I'm a wife, a mom, a doctor of physical therapy, and a peak performance strategist. Working with highly motivated women to transform their lives and inspire those around them is what truly lights my soul on fire. Each episode, whether it's a solo session filled with actionable strategies or an inspiring interview with a woman who has overcome significant obstacles, is designed to leave you feeling worthy and confident in the value you have to offer everyone around you. I hope you walk away empowered and ready to take that next step to lead your life on purpose. Now, let's dive into today's show. Well, hello, everyone. I am so excited today to have the privilege to introduce you guys to Jordan Saunders. She is a fellow mom in healthcare, an entrepreneur, and an incredible asset to our community, both here and worldwide. And as I was kind of doing some work on the resource key yesterday, I recognized how much I didn't know about all the work that you guys do. So we will get into that in a minute, but let me give you a little bit of background on Jordan and then she can introduce herself a little bit more. She has been a speech and language pathologist for over 11 years, using her expertise as a disability inclusion consultant and as the founder and CEO of the Resource Key, which focuses on inclusive impact branding to ensure people with disabilities are included and making meaningful connections with brands. Jordan was awarded LinkedIn Top Voices 2020, Equity in the Workplace, established one of the first resource websites for students interested in the field of speech and language pathology, www.futureslps.com, which has received recognition worldwide, owner of one of the largest SLP resource groups on LinkedIn with over 20,000 members, and selected as top 100 speech language pathologists impacting the field. Her work has been featured in USA Gymnastics, American Speech Language Hearing Association, ASHA, MarketWatch, Fast Company, Pop Sugar, Association of University Centers on Disability, and Kennedy Center. Jordan has developed inclusive gymnastics programs, reading literacy programs, and is the author of Our Reading Literacy Kitchen, Fresh Approaches to Target Reading Literacy Skills. Her creativity, leadership, and diverse skill set is evident from her work as an advisor to companies and organizations ranging from digital speech therapy, gymnastics, international reading literacy initiatives, culinary industry technology platforms, and many more. So welcome, Jordan, to our show.
Thank you for having me, Corey.
Yeah. Is there anything that I missed? Anything that you want to talk about more?
No, I always feel like when my bio gets read, sometimes it's like, wow, how did all this happen? And then, it's just been quite a journey. And I'm really grateful for all of the opportunities. I definitely would describe myself as just go for it in terms of my personality. And I think my bio definitely encompasses that.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you are in the world of entrepreneurship now. What made you make the jump from being in speech language pathology and healthcare to being an entrepreneur?
The jump definitely was, I work predominantly in the school setting doing direct speech language pathology. And I knew that when I started to have like a family of my own, I wouldn't be able to devote as much energy and time as I would like to as a provider in the school system. And so I already had it a little bit in the back of my head, once we start having kids and all of those different things, I am not going to want to be in the school setting per se. I still can utilize my background, but just like in a different way. So yeah, that was really what set the tone, I would say, for future opportunities and things of that nature. Is just really keeping in mind that I am definitely, when I start something, I go all in. And I knew I would not be able to do that as well as have as much energy when I would get home from work, and then spending time with, my family. So
Yeah.
that was really what started the wheels turning for me, initially.
Yeah. When you think back to being more in the school setting and being in more of the healthcare day-to-day grind, were there any specific obstacles that you could speak to that you worked through kind of prior to having a family? I have a lot of clients who are still working in the school system or working in a hospital setting. What do you think was kind of that overarching thing? Okay, like I want to get away from this, or this is the biggest obstacle I'm dealing with right now.
The biggest obstacle was the paperwork. I took so much paperwork home. There was I never felt like I could catch up. And
Uh-huh.
my personality is like I want to like catch up. I want to, the type of quality of work. I want to be able to catch up so that I can really be there for the students the next day, or if I have meetings, really be present, not thinking about the like 20 reports that I have to write, and still maintain the level of good quality services that I want to provide. Yeah, paperwork definitely was the driving force. I remember just so many days being at Starbucks or any type of a coffee shop. For a while it was Starbucks. I remember one year I want to say it was like 95% of the gifts I got for my birthday were Starbucks gift cards. And my friends joke because I felt like it was like my second home. And
Mhm.
so yeah, paperwork was a huge obstacle. I just never felt like I could catch up. And then when the end of the school year came, I'm like, oh no, I have all of this paperwork I have to even more to get done, before the school year closes out. So that would be the biggest obstacle.
I hear you. All the PTs that I work with, we all talk about like if we had only known that when we went to school there was so much paperwork, if we could just treat our patients and not have to worry about the documentation, things would be so much better because it is like hours of your day. When you think back to working with all the kids and your background as speech language pathologist, what kind of drove you to start the resource key? And can you tell us kind of what you do there?
Yeah, the biggest thing that drove me to start the resource key. So to give context, I worked in elementary school, middle school, and high school over the course of the time that I was doing direct speech therapy. And the biggest thing that I saw and observed was, one, the conversation with transitioning into the workforce for some of the students I was working with different types of disabilities. I thought was happening so late. A lot of times we were having this conversation at the high school level, and I thought there was more opportunities to be able to have it earlier discussion regarding the workforce. And the other piece is that a lot of times it was, some of the students wanted to do certain types of jobs, and those jobs didn't always have the structure in place for ensuring like accessibility or accommodations would be provided on site. So that left some of the students choosing jobs that may not have been on their first list. And for me, just observing, I also worked in a residential setting where we would go into the community a lot. And one of the biggest barriers was people would talk down to some of the students that I work with because they had a certain type of disability, and whether consciously or unconsciously. So, for example, one of my students was blind, and we were going to, they were going to get something to eat because we did a lot of stuff in the community. And the staff member asked me what that person wanted, and I said, "Oh, you can ask you can ask them. They're more than capable of ordering." And another instance was um, a same student that I was out in the community with, someone saw that he was using a white cane,
Hmm.
and they automatically just started talking louder. Um, and it sometimes unconsciously, like, people think, oh, well, maybe I need to talk louder because this person has like a disability, but maybe that disability does not, isn't associated with like what they're um, saying, in terms
Right.
of just like someone
Right.
talking louder is not like a combination that someone that is blind necessarily needs. They can this student I'm thinking of in particular was able to hear, um, so it wasn't like they said, can you speak up? So certain things like that seem a little silly when we talk about it, but are happening in real time, whether consciously or unconsciously. A lot of that has to do with how we perceive people with disabilities. And so that's why I started um, the resource key, because we work with marketing departments to change the narrative surrounding how people view people with disabilities. And we teach different strategies as it relates to their workplace environment of how to embed inclusion and accessibility within the marketing department, because the marketing department is the only department that touches every other department at some point in time. So we say if you have strong processes in the marketing department, that's going to carry over to other departments. And yeah, so that's like the long story of just why I started it, but it was really just keeping my students in mind of like when they transition into the workforce, it shouldn't be a conversation of like, oh, sorry, we can't accommodate you. It should be
Right.
like, hey, we're ready, or we're open to have the conversation to make sure that you're successful in this position or have the opportunity to apply.
I love that. My one of the biggest reasons I went to physical therapy school is my uncle has a spinal cord injury and has since he was 19. And even to this day and in his 70s, he's perfectly capable, he's perfectly cognitively sound, but I see people addressing me or addressing my aunt rather than addressing him. And I've seen that in my career as a PT as well. The amount of, I don't know if it's lack of education or just lack of awareness, that the assumption a lot of times when you see someone with a disability is that they are not cognitively sound to make their own decisions or to participate fully, when that may have nothing to do with what they have going on. So I think it's great to know that there's a company out there working with marketing strategies, but also educating the general public, at least assume until you know otherwise that they are perfectly capable until they say, oh, I can't hear you, or oh, I can't see that, or I have difficulty with X, Y, and Z. What community outreaches do you do? What specifically do you help with companies? What else can you say about all that you guys work with?
Yeah, so I can give two different examples. So we do a lot of speaking engagements, webinars, and sometimes what happens too there after the webinar. So we did something with American Society of Safety Professionals. We talked about inclusion and accessibility as it relates to their industry. So we definitely meet people where they are and align it with their industry to make it relevant, and for them to be able to engage and um, implement these ideas and strategies right after the speaking engagement. So actionable. We're definitely about action. And then they actually took the same content, and then we created it into a blog post. So we
Okay.
do different things like that with companies where we're providing them the content as it relates to their industry. And then they're able to take that into and put it back into like marketing pieces and blast it out to their community, to share regarding like inclusion and accessibility. The other areas we work with is like if companies are starting out in their journey or they're building out some type of technology, or maybe they're trying to restructure things within their marketing department. we advise on things like that as well as it relates to inclusion and accessibility. Um, so we're more high level initially, and then
Okay.
we get more detailed. A lot of times the starting point is like a speaking engagement on inclusion, accessibility, and marketing. And then they may bring us back on to do some advising on like a project that they may be working with.
Okay.
Working. We do a lot of events too, whether we're partnering with maybe like a university that is um, doing a specific webinar on maybe disability inclusion. So we help to leverage our audience of over 30,000 to be able to push out the work that they're doing. Or we may be hosting an event or co-hosting together, depending on different times of year. There might be different topics.
Okay. Do you find that you work more on the employer corporation side of things, or and sometimes with the employee, or vice versa?
More on the employer side, yeah. So usually it's more with employers.
Okay. When you think back to your student interactions and whatnot and getting them ready for the workforce, do you guys ever work with clients who are suffering from some sort of disability or have a disability that are wanting to pitch a job to a corporation or a company, that there may be avenues that need to be addressed in the process, but to help the company on the other side see that this person is perfectly capable and able to do the job set forth, but may need certain accommodations to be more successful?
Yeah, so we do that sometimes, but more of it is aligned with like the employer is coming to us to like provide some type of like toolkits or resources for um, their teams. But we have had situations where maybe there were different topics, or maybe someone is reaching out and they're like, we're having trouble like navigating this website. Sometimes we do have it can become a panel discussion. Like we've done different things where maybe it was based off of the barriers that certain people were applying to jobs, so we
Mhm.
incorporate that. And then if the companies want to, because sometimes they may want to do a talk around those types of things, to be able to have more of a discussion as relates to real time versus just like, all right, we're going to talk about like inclusion and accessibility in healthcare, but maybe it may not be relevant to some of the difficulties that they're struggling with. So
Okay.
sometimes we do it in that way, where we, create a content or topics surrounding, and they may have, panel discussions of like listening sessions. I'm sorry, not panel discussions, listening sessions where people that are wanting to work, but just like maybe the barriers of the systems are preventing them from working, and
Mhm.
the employers are having listening sessions to be able to see how they can do more. So we
Okay.
facilitate that, and so that would be an answer to your question.
Okay. Are you finding that more corporations and hospital systems and things are more open to discussions on inclusion and accessibility than maybe they were 10, 15 years ago?
Yes, yeah. Some the driver sometimes maybe someone within that company has a disability, or maybe they are trying to like get more people involved in the workforce to join their company because they want to do make sure that they're included.
Mm-hmm.
So those are sometimes, or maybe they have a family member, or those different things. But the other side is there's a lot of laws that are happening where you have to be like compliant.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to make sure that your website is accessible,
Mm-hmm.
or the application tracking system that you're using is accessible.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the two drivers that I'm seeing in terms of like what's motivating the employers to do this.
Okay.
falls sometimes in those two areas.
Okay. With your work, do you typically work mostly in the web page digital realm with employers for people with certain types of disabilities, or is it also physical disabilities as well?
Yeah, so a lot of the work that we do is as it relates to digital marketing.
Okay.
hmm And that could be, and we're not just focused on one type of disability. We look at it from, mobility, maybe someone is using a keyboard to access your website.
Hmm.
We look at it from all different types of disabilities to be
Okay.
able to build strong processes.
And is this also to help these corporations implement, um, and you'll have to correct me for all I don't know the technology that's out there, but as far as being able to read the website better, navigate the website better, um, tools like physical technology equipment that would be utilized in their setting that somebody with a different ability may not need. Is that part of what you guys do as well?
So we do more of the digital part. So we may not be looking at if someone's trying to figure out what tools they need in like the physical work setting.
Okay.
We have vendors that like if they
Okay.
want to do more in that area, we stay in the area of like digital marketing in terms of if someone has the social media and
Okay.
they want to know how like to make sure that they're not excluding someone that's blind and is accessing their website. Maybe they don't have alternative text, so like we need to add
Okay.
alternative text, and so I kind of guide them through that, or we bring other vendors in if they want to do more like maybe their website is not accessible. A lot of times companies start with their website and then they work from there.
Hmm.
So we have a lot of vendors that we work with just because there's so many different parts of accessibility when you get
Oh yeah.
into it. And the other piece that I talk about it a lot is like if a company is solely more so focused on compliance, is that you can come up to compliance today, but overnight if someone adds something or if you lay off your whole team tomorrow and you bring in a new team, if you don't have strong processes, no one's going to know what made the website compliant, what made the social
Right.
media compliant.
Right.
So really integrating it into processes is really important.
Yeah. It's really amazing what's available out there for access for people of all abilities. I did want to go back for just a minute. I work with a lot of women who are working full time in healthcare and are thinking about making that jump to entrepreneurship, or want to have a part time dream that they're thinking about. What advice would you give them to take that leap, or kind of how you managed in the process of moving from one to the next?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So for me, it was two things that I was looking at. My vision, definitely a visionary. Like,
Yeah.
what do I ideally see myself, doing, and what does that look like? And then it's like the reality. For me, when I made the jump, um, I was married, and like my husband is working as well, so we had two incomes coming in, and we were able to. He's able to support, the work that I'm doing too. So it's
Hmm.
not like if I'm not making my, quota or for my goals for my business, like, am I going to be like not able to provide a roof over, our head? So I think that's really important because it is the reality, right? Like I may not have made this big of a jump in my head to like start my own business and having, we have two kids.
Hmm.
So before, so I think that's important, like the vision and um, the reality. And it doesn't mean that you can't still make that jump, especially when like you're burnout. It's really hard to sometimes make those decisions. It's just like what's the easiest exit that I can just get out.
Oh,
But
yeah.
sometimes it's important to really like just find a time in those burnout moments uh, to be able to create some type of like plan, right? Like, what does it look like? So for me, if I didn't make the leap to starting my own business, maybe I would have found something that is a little bit more flexible. So maybe
Hmm.
going online, doing teletherapy, or um, consulting with
Hmm.
like a company in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion,
Right.
utilizing my speech language pathology background, or um, product advising,
Right.
because there's so much like assistive technology and all
Mhm.
these different things that are happening in, especially with generative artificial intelligence, generative AI. Um, so I think I would be thinking more, all right, how can I still have that like salary, but maybe it doesn't look like I'm taking the paperwork home every
Right.
single day, but I'm still able to utilize my background. So I think it's important to think in those terms based on where you're at, because sometimes the big jump to get out of the like burnout mode of
Uh-huh.
like where I'm at is not where I want to be, may not be the jump that you want to. You may be jumping into something even more. So I think it's important to get clear about when you do make the jump, what is it that you want it to look like? Is it,
Right.
all right, I want to just like only work from home? Um, do I want to like have this many vacation days? Do I want to have this health and wellness package? Like, I think it's important to get really clear because that is going to drive the conversations you're having, whether you're going to be starting your own business or whether you're going to jump into an opportunity that provides you more time to, devote to whatever it is, whether it's family or just like
Yeah.
to be able to get to that yoga class you've been wanting to get
Right.
to. So, and I say that too because like when I started my business, like I was very conscious about, all right, I'm having meetings on these days. These are the time blocks because all this stuff, there's still like paperwork and there's still always something to do as a business
Right.
owner.
Yeah.
Everything doesn't just like you're like magically like at an island doing work. That does happen, I imagine, at some point, but you still like there is a balance in terms of you're getting more of your time back, but it is different where you can lose a lot of that time easily if you're not structuring how things are as a business owner. Or I block off like so much on my calendar to everything from like getting the girls ready, working out,
Uh-huh.
quiet time, like breakfast, meeting time, all of these things are blocked off on my calendar. So I would say those would be the big areas that I would say in terms of if someone's burnout.
Uh-huh. I love that you said that you're a visionary. I was talking to some peers just this last week, um, about burnout and just if I could do whatever, it would be a complete pivot and complete career change. And I think it's so important to surround ourselves with people who've taken the leap and other mentors. But also, I mean, you talked about consulting and product development and all these different avenues. And I think sometimes, especially in healthcare, we get pigeonholed into this is the degree I have. I have to do this 9 to 5. This is all that I know. And I think we sell ourselves short when it comes to all of the knowledge and all the value that we have to offer. It may not be only in the school system. It may not be only in like the 9 to 5 therapy setting. So that I think that's incredible advice. And I think several of my friends are deciding to work multiple PRN jobs or consulting and part-time therapy for that reason, just whether it's to get to the yoga class or to be more with family. Um, so I think that's awesome. The only other real question I had was as far as personal development or things that you do just specifically for you and your own sanity, what do those look like? Yoga, working out? What what inspiration do you have for other moms working right now?
Well, first, I would say definitely had to put in the structure of like being able to have that time. We do have an ecosystem, right? Like I call it ecosystem, but it's like
Uh-huh.
our amazing babysitters we have lined
Yeah.
up. I, my husband always laughs, but I lined up like 8 babysitters, just like
I need to
right,
write that
like so
down. I
that
only have
we don't
2.
we don't it's a little bit more challenging sometimes, if you're not the main full-time, um if they need other full-time positions, right?
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
understand that I can't have them anytime I need them, right? So I
Uh-huh.
have to be realistic in that sense. So I line, up that, and that's important because sometimes, like, if my husband and I want a date and a date night, if I really love like art, definitely like, those paint and sip classes, those are
Uh-huh.
really fun for me. Or just going to grab a coffee at a new coffee shop that just like
Mhm.
opened. Um, Working out, I usually like in the morning, I try to either work out before the girls get up or in the evening. Um, and then sometimes it's just like reading a page of the book that's been sitting there. And I say a page because
Uh-huh.
my attention span sometimes doesn't allow me to get through a chapter, but pages, a page is better than nothing at all.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that I enjoy doing, whether it's just taking a walk or um, we walk. My oldest daughter's school is close enough where we were able to walk. So I do enjoy that as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
And that's, going towards like health and wellness. The other thing is I love podcasts that are inspirational. So I like quote of the day. It's by Sean Croxton, and it's
Mhm.
super quick. It's like 2 minutes, or not 2 minutes. It's about like 6 minutes, I should
Uh-huh.
say, and it provides a quote, and um, you know, it provides a quote from like a bigger speech, but he just picks
Oh, okay.
different quotes. But I love that one, and what's the other one? It's a business startup one. If I think of it, I'll email it to you after, so you can
Yeah.
include the notes. But
Yeah,
oh, how I
absolutely.
built it.
Oh, okay.
I like that one. It's about like start the companies and how they started their companies. It's a fun one.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I want to make sure that everybody can get in touch with you. So, LinkedIn, Instagram, whatever contact information, if you want to throw that out there now. And then I'll also have all your contact information and the Resource Key website in the show notes. So,
Okay, yeah. So LinkedIn, I'm on there a good amount. Jordan Saunders, and my business. We have a LinkedIn business page, the Resource Key, and Instagram would be the other place that I would say to connect with, that most active for the Resource Key. Um, and then my Instagram, Jordan Saunders, is jordan.saunders.
okay. Awesome. Well, I'm so thankful for you being able to take your time today out of your busy mom schedule and the Resource Key. So, I hope that we can get you connected with other corporations that are in desperate need of all of your information. And if you think of anything else that I can provide in the show notes, I'd be happy to put it in there.
Okay, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's show. I just wanted to pop in with a quick offer. If any of the topics we talked about today have left you wanting more for your life and you just aren't sure how to take the next step, I'd love to offer a free discovery call to see how the high level coaching and strategizing I offer may be of service to you. Just head to corywin.com and click on Request a Discovery Call. That's www.coreyWinn.com. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you on the next episode.